Hi, welcome to my channel. I am Thomasin, PA2066. Today is 24th of January, third day of Chinese New Year, so it's Tuesday and third day of Chinese New Year. Happy Chinese New Year to all my Chinese viewers. Let me begin today's topic, which is on SST. Let us begin. Hi, welcome to my channel. What about SST, Sales and Service Tax, Disbursement and Reimbursement? I am Thomasin, PA2066. Today is 24th of January 2023. So the topic on SST, because it is involved in professional service, taxable service, to be collected at 6% on behalf of the government under the custom. This one is under the Department of Custom. So a lot of time there are straightforward calculations for SST for professional fee for services. Let's say you go to a restaurant, then you pay a service tax. So that is quite straightforward. But the topic today, our discussion is more onto what is disbursement and what is reimbursement. Let us begin. So the implementation of the SST actually relaunched from the time of GST in 2015, where it took over the old SST. So in fact we were having old SST, and GST took over in 1st of April 2015. After that, GST continued for a few years until the new government took over from Pakatan Harapan, which won the 2018 election. So this new government restored back to the old sales and service tax. So I'd like to show the historical changes over the last few years about sales and service tax took over, implemented and enforced 1st of September 2018. Discontinue GST and use the new SST. But the point that I am highlighting also here is that there are two actually bill of government, two law. One is the Sales Tax Act, another one is the Service Tax Act. So there are two actually separate Act of Parliament. But when we talk to our customers, talk to clients, when we charge them, we usually say that it is SST, Sales and Service Tax, but in fact it is a service tax. Also the amount of 6% is levied as a service tax. So SST X, here you can see X is with the S. Actually there are two Acts of Parliament. So this is historical. Anyway, sales and service tax, or now we zoom into just service tax 6%. Who is to collect? So who pays for the tax? In case we actually say who pays for the tax means who is collecting the tax on behalf of the government. So in this case, services that are provided by a category of activities. So here it says that businesses that perform their activities in Malaysia, and internationally, like say KFC. KFC is an international company, but then it performs in Malaysia, and it's therefore the threshold for restaurant is 1.5 million per year of sales revenue, and for professional services and other services, it is a threshold of 500,000. So if you collect a year of sales revenue of 500,000 as a service provider, and also categorized under the schedule in the Act, then you are a registered person to consider as who to collect from your customer. So your 6% sales tax, service tax, will be levied on the service that you provide to your customer, and the customer has to pay on top of your service a 6% tax. So let's say we use estate agency practice as an example, 6% SST. So 500,000 properties sold, you have done your promotion, everything. You charge a fee as an estate agent. So your fee is 3%, let's say. Then it will be 15,000 professional fee on this job done. So the SST supposed to be levied on this service is actually 900 ringgit lah. So when you collect, you collect 15900 or 15,900 ringgit from your client, and you remit the 900 ringgit to the custom, the Director General of Custom department, and this means that you collect on behalf of the government a service tax amounting to 900 ringgit, which is 6%. So this is straightforward. Most people will understand this. The only thing is, at times we also claim the extra, so we claim the certain amount of money that we actually claim from our client. So for the same example, we just add another 1,200 lah. So this is claim 1,200. So 15,000 and 1,200. You actually have a total of 16,200 ringgit times 6%. So you are either collecting an extra of 900 ringgit as a sales tax, sales and service tax, that means SST, or you need to collect 972 because of the 1,200 an extra amount here, which is supposed to be the correct amount. So now the topic that we are discussing this afternoon is, would extra claim be included as a service that you are delivering to your customer, or it is just a claim of the 1,200 and there is no GST or SST now. GST is before now SST. There is no SST involved in this calculation. So let us discuss what is in the law. So the term used in a lot of time is called disbursement. A lot of agency firm they will say, okay, you pay me this portion as a professional fee, the other portion is our disbursement, then the total amount you pay is subtotal here with the sales and service tax SST 6%, a total invoice amount. So this disbursement term is being used. So many actually confused also with this disbursement. What is this? Is this the correct term? You use disbursement as in loan released by the bank to pay your let's say your vendor. You bought the property from a vendor and you applied for a housing loan, then the loan eventually get disbursed to your vendor, that means pay up whatever amount. So it's a full release of your loan, is also called disbursement, loan disbursement. So what is in the law we want to discuss in the fact of sales and service tax, and in particular the service tax 2018. Are you able to exclude all these claims from the taxes SST, or how to treat when you actually have a claim? How to treat them? Is that the disbursement need to be included into the total sum and levied a 6% service tax, or is it to be excluded so that you charge separately the professional fee with 6% service tax, and then the particular claim you just claim direct from the terminal, or in this case the vendor. So general meaning, as I said just now, disbursement means the payment of money from a fund. Example is they establish a committee to supervise the disbursement of aid. So aid means fund, financial aid. Another way is legally is used. This is the more related disbursement appropriate for our profession as an estate agent. So a payment, especially one made by a solicitor to a third party and then claimed back from the client. Plural is actually disbursements. The bill includes unpaid professional disbursements. So we are estate agency practitioner, so we also have disbursements that we claim from our customer. Sometimes we claim from both. In the case of tenancy, we have tenant that come forward, and then we have the landlord who actually rent out or let his property, and we claim both sides 150 ringgit disbursement from landlord as well as disbursement from the tenant. So this, do we bill with the SST. So this is an important discussion for this afternoon. So usually the purpose of disbursement in our context for a estate agency practice is usually the marketing material. So because we use quite some huge amount of marketing materials which cost money. Printing of banner, printing of special leaflet, printing of certain types of billboards even. Advertising, like in the case of advertising in media, out of pocket expenses sometimes we have, let's say even buying a drink for a customer, this type of out of pocket expenses. Petrol claim, we drive our viewing person to the property to view. Some of this could be quite a distance apart, land especially, land dues. And at times we may have traveling and accommodation issues, like say you are doing a roadshow, then you go to outskirt townships, then you need to buy your air ticket and also book a hotel. So all these expenses you claiming from your vendor or claiming from your developer. You may want to also specialize job as in handling some tenancy administration. You need to get contractors, specialists doing all kinds of repair. In fact, a lot of time, huge sum of money. Are you all going to put this as disbursement, or are you going to claim as bill, whatever? So is it levied with the SST? How about your admin printing, about your courier charges? Let's say your vendor stays quite far away and you are not going to drive there, you can't drive there, you got to actually send all this by courier. Some of these courier can be in hundreds ringgit that you pay. And at times you also help them for lodging of forms, to run errands, to go and sort out council issues. So all these you need to pay over the counter, so you pay by cash and then you claim back from your vendor or from your client. You need to also do some online searches, verification, going to the authorities to do that, and some of these things like extracting a layout plan, a building plan from the municipal council is 50 ringgit, so you got to pay, and all this you need to claim back from the vendor. So all this, how you want to put in disbursement and claim as a one lump sum, or you're going to do SST or not. So we are following this guide, the guide by the tax service tax issued by the Royal Malaysian Customs Department. So this is as in 2021 September. So I refer 2021 September and the other guide is actually in 2020. So this is the professional service. So what is taxable services? So required to register for SST. These are the few legal service on Islamic matters, accounting service, surveying service. Estate agency service is under surveying service. Engineering service, architecture services, consultation services, information technology services, management services, employment services, private agency, digital services. So there is all kinds of different services and interpretation even within surveying. So who to collect SST? The registered person. Service tax is imposed on prescribed service as just now as a taxable services. A person who provides taxable services exceeding a specific threshold, in this case is 500,000, is required to be registered under the Service Tax Act 2018 and is known as a registered person. And this registered person is required to charge a service tax on his taxable services provided to his customer. Also a scenario is like estate agent, a person who is providing estate agency practice, which is a professional service, and therefore he is known as a registered person under this Service Tax Act 2018, and under this act he is required to charge estate agency service as a professional service, a taxable service provided to his customer, levied a 6% sales and service tax, SST, or in short service tax. So this is surveying one, subject to service tax. If you can read here, surveying services, estate agency, as I put an arrow on top, surveying services include activities of valuation, appraisal, estate agency, or professional consultancy services. And now, because the act actually include property manager, so you would likely be here included. But here I want to mention, I have put another arrow on the middle here. Provision of surveying services in connection with goods or land situated outside Malaysia is not subject to service tax. So this is important because we have questions in our mind about foreign project. Foreign property which are marketed in Malaysia, when you are helping the foreign developer or foreign agency firm and marketing the foreign property to our local Malaysian here, you providing a so-called professional service which is subject to service tax. So in interpreting this, when you read number 20, it is not so it's land situated because you are selling a property outside Malaysia, so it's outside Malaysia, so it's not subject to service tax. Foreign projects are not in Malaysia subject to service tax. Anyway, second part is that I want to highlight here a box where service tax will be imposed on the management and control of any land, building, and any interest therein on behalf of the owner for a fee, and includes the following responsibility. So this is property management as well as tenancy administration. So if you actually estate agency firm handling tenancy administration, you have a separate contract and you are charging your service for providing tenancy administration. So therefore you have to understand this Sales and Service Tax Act, or in this case Service Tax Act 2018, as in how are you going to claim your service as well as all the outgoings. You are having a tenant who complain about leaking pipe, and you send a plumber, and then this plumber go in and thereafter charge a fee, a plumbing job done, and you actually charge to the client's account, and therefore the owner be informed you have got the job done. Are you providing, or is the plumber providing the service? So whichever area are you in a way by law, SST, or in this case Service Tax Act, need to charge the Sales and Service Tax 6% or not? Let us see later. I have worked out an example later. So this property valuation service, property management, tenancy administration service, here they actually put property management. So here property management, although it did not mention about property management in the front, in the first line just now. Project management, marketing consultancy also. If you are helping a marketing project, that means you are helping a developer and doing marketing project. Although you may not be selling, that means you are just doing marketing as a service. Then it is also subject to this Sales and Service Tax. So it's like you are a consultant. You are a consultant. You are helping you are an external consultant, not internal. You are an external consultant helping a developer how to actually do his marketing, how to do his marketing. In fact, you are just giving consultation. That is also required to charge a professional fee, and therefore a Sales and Service Tax. So anyway, we want to go into this. This is the reason why I put 2020. Actually, the professional service guideline is actually 2021, but then for the guideline on the disbursement and reimbursement is on the 2020. So this part is the main part that we are going to discuss this afternoon about SST. So confusing part is that we actually using the correct term, not disbursement. There is another term called reimbursement. So let's say, for example, we are talking about just now an example of plumber. So a plumber came and repair the leak, and thereafter you pay him. He charges his own fee as well as replacement of the parts. So let's say replacement of the parts plus his work done is actually 500 ringgit. Usually the plumber will give a small receipt lah, handwritten one, 500 ringgit, and then in the receipt itemized maybe parts is 250, and then his work done is 500, minus 250 is another 250 lah. And then you say, okay, I will charge to owner. So similar, you charge to owner as 500 ringgit without marking up or taking down any numbers. It's a blank charging to your owner lah. So is that called disbursement or is it called reimbursement? Also, this is confusing. So if let's say you take the bills and then put inside the record in the client's file, and then you say this one is a total claiming, I am not making money, I just take the receipt and put it in. So, but if let's say the claim came and then you actually do a markup lah, let's say lah, he charges you at 500 ringgit, then you charge back to the owner at 600 ringgit. You say that it took me time to arrange, open the place, you know, I waited for him for half a day, he was inside, I was unable to go off because I want to make sure he doesn't mess up the place, so I had to wait for him for whole afternoon or whole day, and I charged my fee at extra of 100 ringgit. And this 100 ringgit is not so-called itemized, not told to the owner. We just say, well, I charged the owner a total of 600 ringgit. So is that the reimbursement or is it disbursement? So in the interpretation, this can be confusing lah. So that is the part that I want to go in. Okay, definition, clear confusion first. Disbursement is actually a claimant as an estate agent made recovery of payment on behalf of a customer, whereas reimbursement is a claimant as a principal make recovery of an expense to customer. One is to customer and the other one is of customer. Claimant is SST registered person who pays the expense on behalf of customer. So in this case, you are the estate agent and you actually help the owner of the place to do the leaking, to sort out the leaking problem of unit of house, and you are actually on behalf of the owner paying the plumber. So in this case, how do you claim back from the owner? Actually distinguish what is a disbursement and from a reimbursement. So this one, if you read, the claimant as an agent is a situation that the estate agent is actually an agent. It's just recovery of his payment. That means he doesn't, in fact, do anything. He just help the owner to do the thing. So it's called disbursement. Whereas if the agent does not tell or does not need to really inform the owner, it's just send the person as if he is the owner of the property. He call the shots, everything, and therefore he becomes a principal. That means he is not an agent, but he is a principal. Directive given to the plumber to do the job and pay the plumber. So he actually make a recovery of an expense that he has done. After he had done it, then only he go back to the owner and say, I have called the shop and now you seeing this bill because it is done already. So these are the two interpretation on contractually a different scenario of how a person react to a problem. So first is an agent who react to a problem and saying that, well, I am just an agent, I am not the owner of this place, and I am not able to call the shop. I have to ask the owner first. Then the owner will say, okay, you go and repair lah. Then he will, in a way, he will immediately call the plumber. So the plumber does the job, maybe even have to give the quote, and then the owner say, okay, you proceed. Then only then he proceed, the agent proceed. So he acts as an agent, whereas on the second part, he does not actually talk to the owner. In fact, he make all the decision and make all the repair done, and only then he would get a receipt and produce the receipt to the owner and say that it is done. So in that scenario, he is a principal according to the position of the plumber. The position of the plumber is dealing with a principal, whereas the other one is that the plumber is dealing with an agent because he could not decide. Also, the definition on the disbursement and reimbursement, you have to understand this concept. Reimbursement and disbursement concept is very important to determine eventually whether you need to charge the SST or not. So I repeat, disbursement means a recovery of a payment made on behalf of the customer by a claimant who is acting as an agent. So when you act as an agent, you actually just do your job and ask every directive from the owner, and therefore you claim back as a disbursement. Whereas if you act as a principal in the way you totally decide everything, and therefore you actually call the shot and later get the reimburse the expenses from the owner So reimbursement means the recovery of an expense from the customer. That means from the, in this case, the owner of the house, that a claimant incurs as a principal from another party. Another party here means plumber. So in the reimbursement scenario, I think we are very clear. Most of the time, owner also doesn't care, so we act everything for the good of the owner, and then end up we just pay on behalf first and decide everything is done for the good of the tenant, and eventually claim back from the owner. So in most of our scenario, we are actually acting as a principal. The owner doesn't know who is the plumber. He doesn't care even who is the plumber. He just want to make sure that the house is well taken care of by an agent who is the person like yourself who handle his house, and he in fact doesn't sometimes even know there is a problem in the house, because he may not be even contactable at times. A lot of time our landlord like that So this is the good example for us to use to actually explain that we are most of the time looking at reimbursement. We are not looking at disbursement. So here there are three color squares. Service provider, who is the plumber; claimant, who is the agent like us, claimant; and then we have the customer, who is our landlord or vendor. So the service provider, plumber, actually provide us an invoice, and then we actually charge back to our customer. So we understand that in the disbursement situation, we are acting as an agent. That means it's more like we have to go back to the owner and get all the directive from the owner. We cannot make decision. We are agent. Whereas a reimbursement scenario is that we are most of the time making the decision. We handle everything, and at the end, the principal, we are acting as a principal with the plumber. Service provider look at us as the principal, and then the customer, who is the landowner or the house owner, doesn't care. So that is our scenario most of the time. So let us explore what is the treatment. So on the ground practice, a lot of time disbursement or reimbursement is confusing in the sense that all this, like just now I said, whether you're acting as an agent or you are acting as a principal, this can be confusing, but put that aside first. Now clear your mind and understand what I am going to tell you about the more on the ground issue. So most of the time an agency claim a lump sum. It's not claiming by simple, like jot down how much I claim for this particular screw, and the other one for the particular brush and pen, and the other time I bought a detergent for him to use for the cleaning services, and all this you claim by one lump sum, you see. So when you claim by one lump sum, and sometimes you worry that you may underclaim, therefore you say, oh okay I mark up, because you bought the brooms and the mop and also the detergent, you group them under all the cleaning services needed, the material used. You have actually a few receipts, and then that add up together, probably about 35 ringgit and 90 cent. Then you say, okay lah, should I claim 35 ringgit, or I claim 35 ringgit 90 cent, or I claim 36 ringgit? Usually they will say, okay lah, I build up to 50 ringgit lah. So that is a markup, from 35 ringgit 90 cent, you mark up to 50 ringgit. So one cleaning service is 50 ringgit for material, let's say. So all these marking up or rounding up is not really making you richer, but then it is more of ensuring that you can cover your expenses or outgoings, you see. So sometimes you don't claim at all. For some example, you get some loose things, then you say, okay, it's about a few ringgit, 3-4 ringgit, you don't claim. So all that you don't claim, you may lose out. So you end up making a markup or a round up just to cover for those deficits. So all these are ground practice which may be interpreted as you acting as a principal. That means you act as a total control person, rather than you have to claim everything. Even a 20-cent bill also you got to claim from your owner, which is ridiculous. So this is one of a few things that I want to highlight, so that you can understand eventually the treatment of SST. So example, without bill invoice, sometimes you just claim without bills and invoice because you have agreed with the owner that he trusts you, and you can actually charge without proof of receipt. Even sometimes the receipt got lost, and issues like, some of the places you buy certain things, they don't have official receipt. There are cash deals without itemized billing. Sometimes overriding costs you want to cover here and there. You don't charge petrol this time, next time you charge petrol, then you pump petrol and now extra of 50 ringgit. Are you going to charge 50 ringgit petrol or not? And these are usually issues which are so tiny that at times you are just not charging, and at times you build up to cover your losses. So there is a issue that you are not doing it for profit but again, there are some situations that some agency firms are charging as more of profit making, because they are reducing their professional fee due to competition. So they try to build back by using disbursement. So these are tactics, dirty tactics in the practice. And you can see some legal firm, they actually give a very good discount on professional fee, legal charges, but the disbursements are quite substantial amount, up to even 1,000 plus. So all these are without receipt. So they will say that they're charging for a lot of lodging of files, lodging of documents, and then there are so much of photocopying, and therefore they have to charge this amount. So all that, is it levied with SST or not? So what is in the law? A relationship between service provider and agency is important. So just now we were saying an example of a plumber and a cleaner. So in this case, if agent has got a contract to carry out the cleaning, or a contract to carry out a plumbing job, then this contract would specify the relationship between the service provider, which is the cleaner or the plumber, with the agency, and that would be the basis of qualifying whether this particular extra charges, extra claim is actually a service from the agent or not. If it is a service from the agent, then there should not be any dispute that this is an extra service provided by the agent, and therefore not not disputable that it should be charged by SST. For example, just now we were saying that the plumbing job is 500 ringgit. So the plumbing job 500 ringgit is not provided by the agent, agency firm to the landlord, right? So when the agency charges this extra claim of 500 ringgit to the owner of the house, it is not his professional service. Therefore, it should not be SST chargeable. But however, if let's say the relationship of the agency and the plumber is a contractual one, that means the agency has a contractual relationship with the plumber to offer the management of the plumbing job. That means the agent is also part of the plumber. So if the agent is also part of the plumber, then when the plumber charges the fee to the agent, and the agent give it to the owner, it means that the owner view the plumber as well as the agent as one. That means the agent is being seen as a provider of the service of plumbing, and therefore there is a intention of I am giving you extra service, which is also my service, extra service from my estate agency practice, and therefore there is this portion that I charge a professional service, which is included in the interpretation of providing tenancy administration, and therefore that particular 600 ringgit would be levied a sales and service tax. But if it is separate out, that means the plumber charges 500 ringgit, and then the agency which does the tenancy administration, because being there helping up and taking his time waiting for the whole afternoon, he charges another 100 ringgit as a professional fee, having a job to make sure it is done, and then that 100 ringgit need to be levied a 6% SST lah. So this part as in recovery of expenses as an agent or as a principal relating to a contractual condition, a written contractual agreement between the service provider and the agency is the context of this interpretation. If a, let us read 12.2, if a claimant acquired the service from the service provider as a principal, the claimant's recovery of expenses from the customer will be treated as a service provided to the customer. If a claimant acquires the service from the service provider as an agent for the customer, the claimant's recovery of expense should not be treated as a service provided by the claimant. So this is in the way for the condition just now, when the relationship of the agency and the plumber is that the plumber looks at the agency as a principal. That means the plumber doesn't know who is the owner, and he doesn't care about who is the owner as well. He would work for the agency to ensure that all the agency's job given to plumber is actually well done and completely done. And they, in that relationship, when the owner of the unit sees the agency package out this plumbing job as an integrated service. So in that scenario, as we read, when the claimant, who is the agency, acquire the service from the plumber as a principal, in this case as a principal, because the plumber doesn't know the owner of individual unit, right? So he only look at the payment from the agency as you employ me to do the job. I don't care who owns the unit. So this condition of the agency acting as a principal, the claimant's recovery of expenses from the customer here means the owner of the unit, will be treated as a service provided to the unit owner. So when it is viewed as a service provided to the unit owner, it means that it is a professional service provided, and therefore the total of 600 ringgit just now need to be levied sales and service tax, SST. So in this case, in fact, it is a principal, as in the case not an agent. So if you look back to the interpretation of the word disbursement and reimbursement, right here, disbursement is an agent, reimbursement is the principal. So for the context of discussion just now, we actually see it as a principal now. So when 600 ringgit is given back to the owner to pay, the owner view the agency firm as providing the service in the total 600 ringgit, not as 100 ringgit, the other 500 ringgit from the plumber. No, it's the total 600 ringgit. So in that case, is claimant is levied sales and service tax, and it is called reimbursement, not called disbursement. So most of the time, in the billing, in our invoice billing, in situation like that, we should put reimbursement. We should not put disbursement charges. So this is wrong. A lot of people do it wrongly in the market. On the ground, it should be reimbursement, because reimbursement would attract condition of principal. Service provider look at, provider is the plumber, looking at the agency as a principal, and the principal, in this case the claimant, he is claiming from the customer who is the owner, will be treated as a service provided to the owner of the house. So if the claimant acquire the service from the service provider as an agent for the customer, then the claimant's recovery of the expenses shall not be treated as a service, because naturally, when the agent cannot decide which plumber, it's just that the owner will say, okay, I got my tenant complained to me, you go and look for the plumber, this plumber, I already told him, you're going to call him, now agent, you go to open the house, I want you to help me, just open the house, let the plumber go in, and you stay there until the plumber finish his job. So in this scenario, you are acting as an agent, you are not the controlling party. The controlling party, the principal, is actually the owner of the house. So in such a way, it is actually called disbursement. It's not you are an agent, so it's a disbursement. And this disbursement is not a service. It's not a service means no need to charge SST. Right? So a lot of time the opposite happen. Disbursement, we see in the invoice charges the SST, but in fact it should be reimbursement that charges SST. In this case, I hope you can understand. Right, we continue on 12.3. In the case where in the written contractual agreement shows clearly that the claimant acquired the service from the service provider acting as an agent, but the amount subsequently recovered from the customer is more than the cost or expenses incurred with a markup, the claimant is treated as a principal, and such a recovery will be treated as a reimbursement. So this repeat as what I say if let's say the 500 ringgit as a plumbing job done, but then when you take the 500 ringgit and put inside your own filing, and then you open up another invoice charging to the owner of the house at 600 ringgit in total without itemizing, because you have a markup. So this markup already 600 ringgit, you charge it to the owner, and the owner say, okay I pay you 600 ringgit, and he doesn't know about actually there is a 500 ringgit bill by the plumber, and then you are charging an extra 100 ringgit. He doesn't know, he just pay you the whole total 600 ringgit. This amount is considered as you are the principal, because you acted on your own to mark up. So this already make the scenario that the plumber doesn't have a relationship with the owner, because you control the situation, you control that 500 ringgit be marked up to 600 ringgit, and therefore charging the owner at 600 ringgit. So therefore this in total is called reimbursement, and reimbursement would attract sales and service tax. Disbursement would not be levied sales and service tax. But what we are seeing in the market, I repeat, what we are seeing in the market, people uses the word disbursement and charge GST or SST. So here is the contractual liability and assumption of responsibility and risk. So the first one SSTable, and the other one is not SSTable. So let us see when you act as a principal, the customer is your landlord, provider of service is a plumber, you are the agency. So the provider of the service provide this service to the owner's house, and then you help him to liaise and get the whole thing done. So you are contractually also liable to the owner, because you want to make sure the owner actually happy with the house. So here you invoice the owner 600 ringgit. Actually the provider of the service, plumber, only charging you 500 ringgit. You have your own purpose of marking up 100 ringgit. So in this case you are treated as a principal, and therefore you need to pay SST, because the whole total contract liability, contractual liability, you are acting as a principal. whereby the right hand side, because there is no contractual relationship as much, you are just arranging the service, and usually the owner is the one that calls the shop. So he actually may have called you to just say that you look for Mr. Chua or Mr. Rahman, who is a good plumber, and then provide the service, and you invoice him accordingly, according to the charges that the plumber did the job. So in this scenario, you are acting as an agent. There is no SST because there is no direct relationship of you are offering your service as in total, because there is no contractual agreement between the two. So we move on to the legal obligation to make payment or payment arrangement. This would be also another way to highlight whether it is a chargeable SST or not. So here again, on the left hand side is SST chargeable, on the right hand side is no SST chargeable. So the first scenario is, as a provider, a plumber, provide the business of plumbing, he doesn't know who is the owner. He will invoice the agent, so he totally invoice the agent, and then the agent pays him money, and after that the agent claims from the customer so in this case the owner. So claimant treat as the principal, again a direct relationship here, and the owner himself usually doesn't know and doesn't care. Whereas in the case of the right hand side, the provider provides a invoice to the customer's name, in this case the owner's name. So he will provide a invoice to, let's say, this unit owner's name, and he will say, okay, my charges is 500 ringgit for replacing, and then you use this invoice in the customer's name to claim from the customer. So in this case you are acting as an agent, and you are not marking up, and he knows exactly what happened. And in this case there is no service, you are not providing plumbing service, so there is no extra professional service that you're providing, so there is no SST But in this case, if let's say you say, for the purpose of waiting for him and get it done, the job get it done, I wasted the whole afternoon, then I want to levy another 100 ringgit as my agency charges, and this is for my tenancy administration. So this 100 ringgit that you charge on top of the 500 ringgit, you have to add SST So that one is a bit complicated, but then yes, in the sales and service tax side, this is to be levied Another part is alteration, as we mentioned, to the value. So in the right hand side, it is without SST, there is no alteration. You use original bill, and then the left hand side is actually value actually already marked up or fixed by the claimant here is actually the agency So plumber actually does his job, give you an invoice, then you create another value or markup or round up to the owner, then the owner pay you according to this different rate. Then you are charging as a principal because you decide on how much. So this part it is included in the service, and therefore SSTable. Last is identity of the parties. So if they can identify each other, then it can be proven that they are direct deals. So let's say the owner has no idea of who the provider plumbing job is, service provided, and he doesn't know actual cost or who is doing it, then you are acting as the whole total control principle. There is a SST. Whereas if he knows who is providing and how much, knew the actual cost incurred by the whole service and know who is it, then there is no SST. If the third party service provider knows the identity of the customer, and the customer knows the exact cost incurred by the claimant on the acquisition of the service from the third party provider, then the claimant is treated acting as an agent. So if you are treated as an agent, then you are not delivering your professional service, because that particular is just in transition. You are just helping as an office boy. So sales service tax and service tax treatment for disbursement is that disbursement does not constitute providing a taxable service, and hence is not subject to service tax. So if you see an invoice, that put down their disbursement charges and add together with the professional fee and then give you a 6%, then you can argue the disbursement. You must explain what is this disbursement. If it is worded wrongly, it should be reimbursement. That is the first consider wrong wording should be reimbursement, or else it should be situation that it is taken out it should not be included, because disbursement does not constitute providing a taxable service Then the other part is that if the customer knew the service is made by a service provider and not by the claimant, that means claimant here is the agency. If the house owner knows the service is actually provided by a particular plumber and not by the agency, and then you can prove that the exact amount is claimed, and then the third one is the name and the copy of the invoice from the service provider is attached as a claim, then this is a total disbursement. That means claiming back the charges without making any profit or making any markup or being very transparent. It is not a service, it's not a reimbursement. Right, so example 1, Ali is legally required to obtain a permit from the Road Transport Department. Usually this is the road tax and use the service of the registered person, runner to act on his behalf. The runner run to the Road Transport Department and ask to renew the road tax. So Ali actually asked the Road Tax Department to get the road tax renewed, and then he doesn't have time, so he asked the runner to go. So this permit, road tax, is issued by the authority under Ali's name because it's Ali's car. Therefore, the issuance of the permit is made by the relevant authority to Ali and not to the runner, because the runner just doing his job as a agent in this case. So when the registered person says pays for the permit, it is actually acting as an agent for his client. So he's just a runner for his client. Therefore, the amount paid by the client to the registered person for the permit is disbursement. This is disbursement and not subject to service tax. So as an agent, you are also a runner, or you are also a broker, you are just an intermediary. You do not make decision and you actually just follow instruction. In this case, instruction from Ali. Ali asks you to go and renew his road tax, and then you do the payment, and then you go back and show the road tax to Ali, and then you claim the money. So that money is actually a disbursement and is not subject to service tax. No change in value. So if it is 50 ringgit, it is 50 ringgit So if a payment received from a customer includes additional charges, markup or margin, or such payment in full amount will be regarded as a provision of service and subject to service tax. So this is when let's say the runner goes and charge and say that I am building up. I do it for you not 50 ringgit, I do it for you for 70 ringgit, I have 20 ringgit. And then this become a whole total, and you do not understand how he actually make the 70 ringgit. He just say yes, including the 70 ringgit is whatever I pay for you for your road tax. So this means that the claimant is treated as a principal already. So he claims as a principal because he is actually building up on the total cost. He changes the value, the original service. And this recovery will be subject to service tax. So this is called reimbursement. This is reimbursement. So markup or margin round up subject to SST. Okay, hence how do we do for the question that I've given in the earlier slide? 500,000 property, 3%, 15,000 commission, and then you have an extra 1,200 ringgit claim. So this claim, how do you want to add it in? Are you going to add it in as a disbursement, or are you going to add it as a reimbursement? So let's say for us, we will say reimbursement because we want to claim this money as a total fee that we deliver, doing all kinds of services that we provide. So all kinds of services that we provide could be waiting for client, trying to use a good online marketing method. All this we have to pay the online service provider, we have to pay server we have to pay all these things. So all this we group it under 1,200. We have done some markup here and there. We also have done some estimate So all this is group service. It's sort of a basket of service. So this basket of service is a consultational one, and therefore we are providing consultation services. We are an estate agency practitioner. We provide consultational services on advertising, and we do out good advertisement with objective of making successful close, and then therefore these types of way is actually we are acting as a principal as well. So this part we want to claim it as a reimbursement, so that it is clear we are delivering a service, and therefore we actually add 1,200 to the 15,000 and all in times 6%, and therefore 15,972. So the answer could be 15,900 or 15,972 lah. So the 15,900 in the first one, the 900 ringgit is the sales and service tax on the 15,000 professional fee. That very clear, everybody knows. Whereas the second one, which is 15,972, the 72 is the sales and service tax, SST, for the 1,200 ringgit, which is disbursement or reimbursement. So it depends on whether you want to claim that 1,200 ringgit as a reimbursement or not. So if you want to claim it as a reimbursement, then it will be included in the calculation of the sales and service tax and arriving at 15,972 lah. So if you do not want to claim it as a reimbursement, you want to claim it as a disbursement, then it is not in the radar of the sales and service tax. So you would still pay 15,900 ringgit for the total charges, and then you claim outside of this invoice, another invoice to the owner, and say that this is the extra which I claim it by disbursement, which you provide all the receipts and all the details of the claim. So in that sense, it becomes a separate billing, which is different from the service that you provide. You are not providing any service. That one is just claiming back. You are just claiming back under another invoice stating the receipt that you have collected so far for all the expenses and outgoings, and you are not charging him any service. So the disbursement 1,200 is not levied SST. When you are contracted as an agent, you actually see that the plumber or whoever does the job bill directly to the purchaser. So in this case, the purchaser in the house will probably you have done some cleaning. So the purchaser asks you to do cleaning, so you actually contacted a friend, and then the friend go and do the cleaning, and then he will give a receipt, total receipt to the purchaser's name. There is no markup, no changes in the value of the work done, and then you also know that the purchaser has this friend and they actually know each other, and therefore you are just acting as an intermediary, facilitating this cleaner to go and clean the house. So a lot of time the purchaser already has their friends or cleaning person that they can trust. So that they ask them to go and clean the house. So you are just a door opener, you are just a runner to open the door. If it's reimbursement, then it's different. You are contracted as a principal, you call the shot, you bill everything direct. That means the cleaner bill your company agency pay the cleaner first, and there is where you calculate, you make sure you don't lose money, you mark up or you round up, and then you also make decision on how to do it. And in fact, you sometimes also buy material for the cleaner to do the cleaning, and then you actually don't need to tell who is the cleaner, so the purchaser doesn't know who is the cleaner. So at the end, you just charge a total fee to the purchaser, say this is the whole total amount that I have expend, and I want to charge you as a reimbursement. So in this case, reimbursement is levied as sales and service tax. So now tenancy administration, we just give you two examples. Contractor billing, saying that billing to the client's account, you actually bill the client's account 2,350, receive invoice in the landlord's name for repair of the popping tiles. So this type of billing, it is direct and you are acting as an agent, so you are not conducting the thing by itself as a principal, so it is disbursement, so no need to pay SST. Cleaning service, as I gave just now, paid from your petty cash, and then you said okay 450 ringgit from the L&C company, and then at the end you charge to the client's account 500 ringgit because of your processing 50 ringgit processing fee. So this total 500 ringgit you charge to client's account would be levied with the sales and service tax. Now we want to talk a bit on the part that I have highlighted earlier on. In Malaysia, that was put down in the first, let me go back, maybe I go back to the first slide. Here, who pays SST in Malaysia? The businesses that perform their activity in Malaysia and internationally will have to pay. So if your business is in Malaysia, just delete the internationally, you also pay. If your business is in Malaysia as well as internationally, in Malaysia you also pay. However, there is no description of the business in other country and not in Malaysia. So if your business is in other country and not in Malaysia, you actually do not pay SST. So here is another one I want to show. Here, provision of surveying services in connection with goods or land situated outside Malaysia, not subjected to service tax. So we go to our current slide just now. Okay, so foreign project, do you need to charge SST? Let's say you are selling a foreign project in Malaysia, but the foreign project is actually overseas. An estate agent from Malaysia XYZ agency provides estate agency practice to a local client, Malaysian in Malaysia, relating to acquisition of property in Melbourne, Australia. And then XYZ, this particular agency is working with an Australian real estate firm called the ABC Realtors, who provided the necessary information concerning Australian law and also Australian real estate regulation in Melbourne. And this XYZ agency that you are working at actually includes the fee that the ABC Realtor professional fee charges. Because you buy property from Australia, is represented by ABC Realtors in Australia, and therefore ABC Realtor actually become a service provider, so it charges fee because you ask XYZ agency to contact ABC Realtor in Australia to look for a good property to buy in Melbourne. So the ABC Realtor in Melbourne actually help you up in the law and also to negotiate to get a property in Melbourne. So you pay, you have to pay ABC Realtor, you have to pay XYZ agency So ABC Realtors actually, an XYZ agency actually bill you one lump sum. Then XYZ agency actually bills the buyer in Malaysia for a property in Australia. So XYZ agency contracts directly with the Realtor ABC and work with the ABC Realtor to obtain the required information in order to perform its agency service to the client in Malaysia. Therefore, ABC agency is the principal in acquiring the service, because you don't know who is the person in Australia, so you say, oh, come XYZ, you know someone in Australia who is good, you try and source for me a property in Melbourne. So therefore, the XYZ agency contacted the ABC Realtor, because ABC Realtor is the sister connected company in Australia, so both add up together to offer a good property choices to select, and therefore at the end you found your property in Melbourne. So this professional fee you got to pay. So the Australian ABC Realtor charges the fee to you, as well as the XYZ agency in Malaysia also charge you this fee. So is this fee levied to be levied at SST or not? So this is a question. So here, of course, we know the professional fee recover form parts of the XYZ professional service, because XYZ pay ABC in Australia, as well as it included ABC service in its own XYZ invoice, and the whole total invoice is invoice as Malaysian invoice to the buyer in Malaysia, but then the property is in Australia. So the subject matter is in Australia, you see. So it's not subject to SST since it is related to matters outside Malaysia. So foreign property no need to pay SST. So let us conclude quite a lengthy discussion and quite confusing also. So the good thing is that we understand now the historical part of GST to SST, and now 2018 September 1st until now is SST, which are constituting two separate acts. One is the Sales Tax Act, another one is the Service Tax Act 2018. So in this act, the Service Tax Act, there is actually classification of different types of professional services we've gone through, and we will also understand the term of a registered person. And this registered person need to collect, there is a threshold 500,000 for a professional service. For restaurants, it's 1.5 million yearly generated sales revenue. So if you collect total commission professional fee service of 500,000, then you need to apply to custom office for a registered person to start collecting sales and service tax, SST 6%. Estate agency practice was included, and you saw it under surveying service. Project marketing and tenancy administration also is a professional service and need to be levied the 6% sales and service tax. So then we next move to disbursement and reimbursement. A lot of time the confusion between disbursement and reimbursement. So if it is just disbursement, then it is not chargeable with SST. If it is reimbursement, then it is chargeable with SST. So treatment of the service tax disbursement, not subject to service tax. Claimant is acting as an agent to the customer. No additional charges and markup for the payment. Service provider should bill to customer of claimant. That means the plumber bill direct to the owner of the house, not bill to the agency. Customer is aware of who the service provider is. That means the owner of the house know who is the plumber and the actual cost, what is the cost incurred. So not the agency. Agency agent only act as an intermediary agent or to facilitate the work. Service providers bill and claimants bill are being issued to customer all together. So they are separate billing. So the bills are clear. Whereas the treatment for reimbursement subject to service tax, because claimant acting as a principal to customer. That means the agent actually say, I sort out everything for you, I decide everything for you. So the plumber, actually you do not need to know. The owner doesn't need to know who is the plumber. Additional charges and markup for the payment, usually markup is done. Service provider shall bill to the claimant. Customer is unaware of who is the service provider, and then the actual cost incurred. That means it's the total one bill. Only claimant bills is being issued to customer. So this is a summary. Thank you very much, and I like to share with you my work in e-learning for a diploma in estate agency by the board. That is under estateagentexam.com. I have two advertising platforms, a comparative index IPI for ranking of properties under contracttoyou.com, and the other one is the platform for community of agents using geo-linking of businesses. That is under fineware.info. I have also a website for all my videos and write-ups, as well as my listings, which is the My Real Property Online. Thank you for visiting my website. I'm Thomas Sim, PA2066. My mobile number on display, and the 4 website addresses for you to visit my work. And thank you very much for coming to my channel.